great pleasure to present to you this morning. I know that we're still struggling and working hard to get seated and to have our food. Please do so. Do not be dissuaded, but I'd like to ask you also to give your attention to our guest speaker, Protodeacon Andrei, who is an eminent and important historian and canonist in Rokor. He is also a longtime professor at Jordanville. It is my pleasure to say he's also a colleague, although I'm much junior to him, because I am now teaching part-time at Jordanville. I want to let you know that he's a man of order and discipline, because I made his class late on one occasion, or two occasions, or three, and then we had to have healing over that. But this is a very important presentation on the seminary and the possibility for future projects, Rokor studies. And I'd like to draw your attention to this board, if you will look here, please, supporting the marathon, the 365 days of church history. I will say one last thing before surrendering the microphone to our esteemed guest. History, that's memory eternal for us. History is not a light or optional topic for us. It's actually in the blood of the church to have sacred memory. And Father Andrei is the keeper of that memory for us, and I give you the floor, and I welcome you.
Yes, it's ready. Thank you, Father David, and all of you. It's always amazed me that everyone works hard. It's America after all, so 40+ hours a week, and then you still decide to use your very valuable time to hear me. So when you hear me, you hear this nice Russian accent. So please make sure that you ask questions if something is unclear. And also we have reader Timothy with us with this notepad to take email addresses of those who might be interested to hear back from you, and we'll send you a link how to sign up for this marathon. So you will get every day. I'm going to, I don't want to say spam you, but I'm going to send you everyday reflections. So, and I'm catching up sometimes in several days, because like I travel right now, I owe people 2 days of work. So at the same time also to run this, if you can support it with getting our merches or in other ways, that will be great help for me to do this job. Right, what am I offering you today? I hope you can see, so nothing is on your way to see this presentation, right? Last year, my employer, the seminary, Holy Trinity Orthodox Seminary, celebrated its 75th anniversary. And in Germany, they decided to dedicate their annual seminar to the seminary, and they invited me to give a talk. So, and this is what I'm going to share with you for the second time. So I will be talking about the past and present of Jordanville. And again, feel free to raise your hand. It's not an obstacle, it's not distraction. Feel free to slow me down, because I am here for you. Don't be counterproductively polite, okay? So, right, so history and reality of our seminary in Jordanville. This is what we are here for today. Right, I will need to give a little bit background what was happening in America before Jordanville. And a tracking point, a starting point is Holy Patriarch Tikhon. So the church in America before the late 19th century existed only in Alaska. I mean, there were various parishes and of various ethnic backgrounds, like Greek parish in Florida and so on, and of course Greek parishes well all over. But a Russian church started from Alaska at the end of the 18th century. Then, at the end of the 100 years later, masses of the former subjects of the Habsburg monarchy who came here via Ellis Island, as many others, they ran into problems with Roman Catholic hierarchy. And the person to have the Orthodox Church in America would be Bishop Ireland, London. I don't remember exactly his name, but Roman Catholic Bishop of Minneapolis, who was very scandalized of having clergy, married clergy, showing up at his door. And as a result, they decided to reevaluate their history, turned to the Russian Church, and here is the Russian Church. Right, I need to organize it a little bit here. Okay. So Bishop Tikhon, he was a Russian imperial bishop who didn't mean to stay in America. It was kind of an assignment for a while, but at the same time, he. Can everyone hear me, right? I probably don't need this mic because I cannot really organize all this presentation mic, my notes. So Bishop Tikhon, despite the fact that he was this Russian bishop, he was very sensitive. He was very sensitive to American realities. And in 1907, at the parish in Mayfield, there was the first All-American Council. And it happened in the time when even in Russia there weren't any councils. So it remains to be looked, remains to be found how come that they decided to assemble for this council. And this council now is a major authority in the Orthodox Church in America. It exists until nowadays in the CA, and it used to be known as All-American Sabor, and now it is known as All-American Council. So they established the monasteries in Tikhon's monastery. The idea was that Orthodox of all backgrounds, minus Greek people, they would be under the Omophorion of the Russian Church. But then the revolution happened in 1917, and everything went to dogs. Everything collapsed because money stopped to arrive from St. Petersburg, and parishes have to defend their property from attempts to seize their properties, and kind of situation came to this dysfunctionality, disintegration that we all live with. So there was before this a seminary in Minneapolis, right? But the seminary ceased to exist. And you see here Metropolitan Platon. He came to America with the assignment of the Russian Church abroad. But in America, Church was under direct subordination to Church in Russia. And also there were very strong trends to have an independent church, what later on became the CA. So Metropolitan Platon, he had to maneuver between the Russian bishops in Serbia, between those autocephalist trends in order to preserve unity. And it came with a high price. So, because he got as a result suspended by the Russian bishops in Serbia, by the Metropolitan Sergei from Russia. Then in 1935, after Metropolitan Platon's death, in Sremsky Karlovci, where Reader Timothy was himself and myself and so on a few years ago, in Sremsky Karlovci, leaders of the Russian diaspora met. And they met and they had this commonwealth of Russian churches in diaspora under leadership of the Russian church abroad. So unity was established, and this unity, you look in the upper what is right corner, and you see St. Tikhon, St. Vladimir's church in Jackson, New Jersey. All those things, they came into being during these 10 years. And if somebody would ask a person of St. Vladimir Seminary, why is it Vladimir's? I am not sure that the answer is going to be because the Russian Church at this time celebrated 950th anniversary of the baptism of Rus. So it kind of was this common vision. Now I would like to reach out and ask, is everything clear? Do I need to unpack everything? Is it? Do you need more background or? Yes, please. Oh, okay. So this unity, right? Now think about what was happening in the world at this time, right? So most of the Russian Church abroad, minus America and Canada, Australia, the UK, Switzerland. Outside of those countries, everything else was under National Socialists and their allies. So kind of you could not communicate across front lines. It was illegal. It was illegal to listen any German radio and stuff like that. If you do this, you can be locked up. So no information was available. And in 1943, local bishops, they were assembled with German organization, with German support in Vienna, and they had their episcopal conference in Vienna, and they decided that Russian Patriarch, newly elected Russian Patriarch, wasn't canonical. And Germans used it as part of their propaganda, fighting Russia, saying that this is communist patriarch and so on. So at the same time, in America, they made different decisions, and local bishops were part of this decision-making too. They recognized as patriarch. So it was kind of phenomenal. They would commemorate in America Metropolitan Anastasi and Russian Patriarch, Metropolitan Theophil, who was successor to Metropolitan Platon. So this association of the Russian Church abroad with National Socialist government in Germany resulted in distancing by the church in America from the Russian Church abroad, and then resulted in breakup in 1946. So in 1946, American Metropolia, the predecessor of the CA, decided to withdraw from this deal that they signed up in 1935. They decided they are not going to be under Russian Church abroad, and they are going to be under Church of Russia. This deal with Church of Russia never went through, but both churches broke up, and this really sets up this thing, sets up background for Jordanville. Because now the Russian Church abroad needed its own seminary in America. Whereas before, if we go back, you see, it could be just a small school for young monks and so on. Now it became kind of a frontliner in the Russian Church abroad. So, because those two schools, they are not available anymore. Okay, any questions, anything I need to clarify? So, monks arrived from Germany to Jordanville. There used to be a railway station at Mokot at this time, not anymore, and new patriarch elected in Russia, and the Russian Church abroad also didn't recognize this patriarch, and so it's time of polemics, time of confrontation, and time also of building the seminary. So you see this icon of St. Job from the lower church in Jordanville, and this icon has background monastery in Pachayev, monastery in Munich, and monastery in Jordanville. So kind of St. Job becomes a big symbol or big patron saint for all Russian monastic brotherhoods abroad. And Jordanville at this time is the largest Russian monastery outside of the USSR. If you think about Valam Monastery that was evacuated to Finland, if you think about Mount Athos, it was less populated at this time than monastery in Jordanville. I mean, take me on this. This is kind of my assessment. I can be wrong, but that's what I would like to say. So you see those monastics on the photo, right? That's how classes look like. Initially, all those people, they survived World War II. They were traumatized, and as a result of their experience, they decided that the best thing in their life would be to dedicate themselves to God, to become monastic, because nothing makes sense after what they went through during war years. Okay, now, so interestingly, I work on those daily reports, and I wrote in one of those reports that in Russia, which was the situation was very different. It's another side of the Iron Curtain. But in Russia at this time, they worked on the same assignment, on the same objective, to find people who were suitable to teach. And think about this: in diaspora, they already existed for how many decades? A generation that was trained in Russian imperial theological schools were dying out. People who got their education elsewhere, like Metropolitan Philaret, he was trained in Harbin, he had a couple of years of pastoral school in Harbin, and to find people who were properly trained in theology was an enormous task, either in the Soviet Union or abroad. So this is first initial generation of faculty. You see Archimandrit Konstantin Zaitsev. He was known as a writer, he was known as a journalist, he was trained in juridical science in St. Petersburg, again, not theology. So then Nikolai Dmitrovich Talberg, he was educated in elite college in Russian Empire. He was trained to be also some kind of statesman. He was connected with German right wings at the very beginning in Munich in 1920s. So, and still connected for many years with German state authorities, National Socialists. But it didn't really affect what he taught in Jordanville. He taught Russian history, Russian church history. So then Professor Andreev, who was a psychiatrist from the Soviet Union, who was member of the Catacomb Church, and a young man from the Soviet Union who became Archbishop Alipy, who was extremely gifted and who wrote textbook for Church Slavonic. And I'm saving for the last introduction. This is Father Mikhail Pomazansky right there, and he was actually properly trained in Kiev's Theological Academy, in seminary, and also in pastoral school, and he was a Russian Levite. All his ancestors were priests, but kind of finding himself surrounded by people who were very ideologically motivated. It was probably very hard for him also to say what he would have said otherwise. So this is my assessment of this too. Now I'm rewinding this little bit through a number of decades, and this is 1990s. The Russian Church abroad in 1990 decided to accept faithful and clergy in the Soviet Union. So, and I came to Jordanville in 1990, and my class was something like 20 plus people, and only 7 or 8 people graduated from this class. And this is my class here, right? I think one priest, yeah, actually yes, everyone is here indeed, yes, we all have. So you see here Father George Zelenin, archpriest, on this major photo. He, I believe, the first one from the new immigration to build a church in Wayne, New Jersey. So next to him, Father Innocent. He grew up in Toronto, and in White Sticharion, hired Deacon Panteleimon, who was still born in China, but grew up in Australia. So then myself, then another protodeacon from Australia, Father Alexander, and Gennady Busygin, who was from St. Petersburg. He came to the seminary in his 50s. and he passed away as a homeless in Buffalo, New York. And then a relative of Matushka Maria Potapova, Mikhail Stepnin-Kaminsky, who came back to Russia and is in St. Petersburg. So this kind of new dynamics of 1990s. So in the 1990s, the whole seminary is in Russian, everything is in Russian. So, and now we might only have 3 students who are fluent, who can speak in Russian and write in Russian. So out of the number around under 30 students, we only have 3, and I am kind of one of the very last people who speak with this accent and so on. And yeah, so that's kind of reality. And in 2009, the seminary decided to switch for instructions into English. And I should say, I was giving this presentation in Russian in Munich using the same set of slides, but it was in Russian. So, and I said that I think it was a good switch, because sometimes when I was going to Jordanville, I was told, well, Jordanville, it's like an elevated parish school. Hey, they accept everyone, you will be fine. And I kind of was embarrassed by this. But with hindsight of time, I see that there was some truth. And now education standards are going up. Those students who come to Jordanville, they come to Jordanville because they want to be there. It's not because there has happened some kind of situation. They, like somebody, let's say, like came from Russia and married an American man, and there is a teenager kid, and they just think, what are you going to do? Okay, there is Jordanville, let's send him to Jordanville. And I have one case in my hand. There was a nice boy, but he wanted to be a cook. He wanted nothing wrong, he wanted to be a chef. I mean, and he ended up being a student in Jordanville. So, I mean, and now if we have problems like that, I'm not aware of them. So kind of students are motivated, they want to serve the church, and that's what Jordanville is for. Now, with all what I tried to show you before, I think it takes me to this slide and speak about ideology. Like ideology was a big, and maybe is to some extent with some people, a big deal in Jordanville, right? So, in 1921, Russian refugee bishops in Sremsky Karlovci, they reflected on what happened in Russia during the revolution, during the civil war, and their response was, it was because Russian people turned their back on monarchy, and monarchy should be restored, and not just monarchy, but the monarchy with the Romanovs. So gradually, this monarchist conviction, monarchist beliefs, they became, if not officially, but very closely to be official ideology among clergy and church people in the Russian church abroad. And problems with ideology is that ideology is not friendly for dialectics, for dialogue. So you either subscribe or you leave. So it doesn't really leave much room for conversing, for talking about things. And somehow the 20th century in Russia became the century of ideology. If you think about Marxism, which is an economic theory and has its merits, critically assessing economic growth, economic development, but it's just a theory. In Russia, it's turned into religion. And it's kind of using orthodoxy as a kind of pattern, idea of fallen leaders that should be venerated, various ranks in the Communist Party as a hierarchy, very intolerant attitudes to their competitors, and very also puritanic morals. So it really became into something that you don't question, you just have to accept this. If you don't accept it, you will be a heretic, you will be persecuted. So that's kind of what was happening in Russia, and responding to this, Russian Church abroad came up with its own ideology. So, this famous book by Saint Seraphim Sobolev of Oguchar, who live in Bulgaria, republished a number of times by the monastery in Jordanville, kind of spelling all this out, ideology and so on. But if you think about history, if you think about theology, that both history and theology, they permit conversations, they permit questions and so on. And ideology is not very, as I said, is not very friendly toward questioning, toward dialogues. And so I hope that we came now into time when we very strongly promote theology, because it's major part. When theology is taught boringly, then our attention shifts elsewhere. And when our attention shifts elsewhere, we start to focus on things like ideology or some other aspects. But I mean, this is really kernel. Theology, why we believe, how does this affect us, how does what the Lord did, his redemption that he did for the human for us, how does this affect each and one of us. So that's, I hope, that's our new reality in Jordanville. Okay, now there is this kind of phrase, right, that does wonders or does magic. So there's going to be a scandal, especially with bishops. If somebody would bring it up and say to the bishop, Vladika, there's going to be a scandal. So I think bishops, they probably know how to deal with it, not to be affected. Another part of history, right, is not to let oneself to be scandalized. It's okay that other person has different opinion. It's okay that maybe he's even wrong. So he has his free will, and you are not responsible for him, but we still need to learn how to talk, how to communicate, how to respect this person. So don't let ourselves to be scandalized. That's kind of another thing. So we need to learn how to talk, how to ask, how have you reached this conclusion? What are your evidence? So maybe also I need to some kind of tune up. Maybe I'm not getting it. Maybe I don't understand you exactly. And that sort of things that we do in classroom now. So be more philosophical about things. So now daily life, I need to escape from here and get somewhere else. Yeah, I think I can use this one. Yeah, going to be a short video. morning. So, in last October, I was working on my presentation about St. Fyodor the Studite, and I was reading some of his writings, and I was kind of struck, and I guess positively struck. It's sort of one thing to hear this, one thing actually to realize it yourself, that if St. Fyodor would have spoken to Bishop Luke, they would be on the same page. So kind of, and that I guess one of the things that Jordanville delivers, and that what we do good. There is still a lot of things to improve. I talked about them, like how we listen, how we talk, and so on. But this access to the authentic ascetic tradition, which really something that I think would be very comparable with the Studian Monastery in downtown Cathedral, and also St. Fyodor's orations they read during fast, during Lenten period, at pre-sanctified liturgies, and so that's something that students get in Jordanville. That's what they get. Another thing also that connected with what I've been talking, that if we rewind even more farther, even 7th century Byzantium. 7th century Byzantium, Emperor Heraclius, he just got rid of the sphere of Greeks and Romans, Persians, and just to have a short respite to deal with the army of Islam. So in this army of Islam, already taking Syria and taking Holy City of Jerusalem. And therefore, people like Patriarch Sophronius, like John the Moschus, like Saint Maximus Confessor, they cannot appeal to this imperial ideology anymore, because they live under Caliph. They don't live about emperors. And that's what I argue is very useful for us nowadays, when we live in very divided world, very divided church also. So when we hear things in Russia, when we hear things from Kiev, so when maybe we don't hear things here in America, so because they're kind of not commented, but by our hierarchy. But at the same time, this kind of common spiritual identity may be something that we should foster more nowadays. So I mentioned this transition, right? And I showed you my class for a reason. It's kind of everyone speaks Russian. So now this new class, they have Seb Davidenko. He is a Dixie boy. So his dad is Russian, his mom is American. He's now a deacon in Toronto. So, but he was born in Georgia. So, and George Loomis, he's from Canada. He grew up Orthodox, but his parents converted. So Joseph is also a Dixie from Dixieland. And Christian, he's subdeacon in one of the very dynamic parishes. He's a son of Father Job Watts in Knoxville, Tennessee. So this is kind of what we are now, I mean, whom we are now teaching and producing, formatting. Now, thank God for an accredited body, because in order to have our degrees sensible, in order that any prospective employer would value our degree, we need to have those degrees accredited. And accrediting bodies, they make us, they don't tell us what we should teach and so on, but they would make sure that we have enough funds, that people who teach classes are qualified, that everything is fair in a way of how administration and the faculty deal with each other. So, and our also level of faculty is improving. We have Dean Shedlovsky, who is very open, speaking of dialogue, it's all there. So we have Father John Bodaker, who is very rare person, because he's an Orthodox priest who is trained in Old Testament. It's not easy to find someone, so he knows everything. contemporary scholarship. At the same time, he's Orthodox priest, devout priest, and so on. So then we have a philosopher, Mr. Novis, who works on his PhD at SUNY Albany in Byzantine Studies. Father Cyprian, he's very good about teaching Greek. He's Greek from Australia. So, and Miss Purdy, she is very gifted to teach Church Slavonic, and she's trained from Berkeley, California, to do this job. Okay, so now we launched Master of Divinity 2018, and one of the classes that I don't know if I can say I'm proud of, it's Russian Church Appropriate History Identity. It's kind of class that teaches rocker as an anthropological phenomenon looking at various aspects of various things and kind of identity, how we came, who we are, how we start to understand things. Along the lines I've been talking here. Okay, so and last year we celebrated this anniversary. We have 300 graduates. They all over the globe. And we had like 3 or 4 scholars who were trained in Jordanville, and we have a number of bishops here, and all of them serve the church. They're very different here. So they're very different people, different backgrounds, but they have one this common denominator, of course, Orthodox faith, but then also their Jordanville experience, Jordanville background. So, and now I have a question for you, so I would like to turn the table on you and kind of to answer this question for me and for maybe for the audience. So, why does the Russian Church abroad need Jordanville? Thank you very much for your attention. So any takes?
Any questions? Anyone want to ask anything in front of?
No, I'm asking a question. I'm asking a question. Yeah, I would like to get some answers. So kind of, or any reflections, maybe you think that actually you need something else. I really would like to hear. I don't expect pre-complicated answers. Father David, please. Yeah, Mr. Page, please.
I think, you need Jordanville because you need to build the priests and the faith.
Okay.
That's what it's all about.
All right.
And you be able to be a priest and the blessings of that, and to share it with everybody else, and to be able to give homilies and to serve the church. Okay. You have to have the seminary for that.
Father David, you pointed to you don't have an answer, right? Okay, that's fine. Right. Oh yes, please.
Look, I'll just make a comment.
Yes.
My perspective on that is that in the current politically correct climate and the different challenges I think that our future youth is going to meet, I think they need to have the guidelines that our grandparents and forefathers and all of that gave us. And if we don't have a seminary or an intellectual center, where do we turn to in terms of the kind of mass media that goes out and a lot of the misinformation that goes out? I think that the future for our church does lie in having a strong backbone of clergy. I know that in Australia, where I come from, we do not have enough clergy to go around. You know, this big continent down south, right, that is very difficult to get to at times. We find that shortage is there. And so if we don't have this, then where do we turn to? What do we have? So from my perspective, my son, my grandchildren, for the future, I think it's absolutely critical that we have Orthodoxy continue, because this was the beginning of the church.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to add what Irina just said, that last Saturday we had visited Bishop Alexei from from Alaska, sorry. And what he said, that they have 80 parishes and only 20 priests.
Okay.
Great shortage, not only in Australia, but also here.
Yeah. Yes, please.
In the absence of a school of a seminary, which permits priests to get advanced education and study theology in the Orthodox tradition, what's going to happen is what's happened in the past, is that these priests who have this vocation, for the lack of anything else, will go to other types of universities which are not Orthodox and study theology and get advanced degrees, and they will do their best. But what's going to happen, and what's already happened frequently, is they end up absorbing a tradition which is not the Orthodox tradition. And they may have some positive aspects even to those traditions, but it's not the Orthodox tradition. And sometimes, what is worse, they can become absorb doctrines which are not just not the Orthodox, but which in fact are contradictory to it in the long run, even though in ways that are not initially obvious. And so it's very important to have a school of higher education which is specific to Orthodoxy, which is like priests to be trained in the profoundest sense in our tradition. So that's quite important.
Thank you. Yes, Father David.
If I could add to, I wanted to add to what Paul has just mentioned. The need for a center that is conscious of its own historical purpose and knows its history is probably more necessary now than ever before, because of the fact that we face an unprecedented political, bioethical, and ontological situation where what we stand for as Christians in terms of political realities, bioethical realities, moral realities, and in fact, the ontological reality of what the human person is. To lose a seminary or to have it degrade would be a catastrophic mistake for us. And because of that, I actually help at the cemetery as part of human nature is we're fragile, and you can see that right now. But I try to help at the seminary, though it makes me overextended, because I really do believe in what I've just said, and I want to underscore what Paul has added. We could not be in a greater need to have this than right now. Even if it only touches a fine line of people that receive this education, it's a trickle, I realize that, but it's there. And that those people, they will come in contact with those other men and women who have gone and had the university experience that is a bit more heterodox. It's more complicated. The fact that these other people can come in contact with them actually can save them, can lift them up, can hold them together. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Very good to have you. Thank you on board. Well, Father Patrick, of course.
Well, one thing that strikes me when I went to Jordanville is, yes, you have wonderful courses and you can study many intellectual things. But having been through a seminary and seeing the seminary there, one of the most important things I think that Jordanville brings is that it forms people. There's a monastery at the heart of Jordanville. And what people learn there is how a priest should act, how a priest should think, how a priest should pray. The closeness one will need to feel to God throughout your priesthood. And so if you develop a real habit of of living the life of the church when you're in this environment. So it's what we call formation of the priestly character. And that's why it's so important to have a place where priests, deacons, good lay people can all be formed with the mind and the behavior of the church. And this is something very valuable. Just imagine Jordanville, where you have saints there, their bodies are there. You have a functioning monastery. It's invaluable. It's invaluable. And it's a treasure the Rocor has. So this is what I think.
Thank you, Father, and thank you for all your participation. Thank you for being a friend of the seminary with all your inputs. So Father Patrick, he is a leading canon law expert in this country, Orthodox canon law especially. So thank you very much, and just then a reminder that we have all those goodies and merch, and so if you can.
Yes, he does have these things, mugs, shirts, all for a donation there. And we also have a way to pay for it over here with the card reader there. Maria Zakharan has told me that it's available. I don't know how it works, but if you don't have cash, you might be able to do it through a card right over there. So thank you.
Any questions regarding what we're talking about? Are there any questions from your end to take? No.
Father, can I ask you one question?
Of course, yes, please.
Is there, I've heard in the past that there might be like a school for checkers, for like that women could attend as well. Is there anything for women in Jordanville?
There are correspondent classes. There is correspondent education. Other than that, the school you mentioned is now by New York City. It's a convent, Novodiveevo convent. That's where the school is. So other than that, I cannot think of anything, unfortunately.